Welcome to the Driven Agenda podcast, where raw journeys drive ambition and reveal the fuel behind people's success. I'm Shannon Sagan, a personal injury lawyer, entrepreneur, and founder of the Dashcam Lawyer. This podcast is all about being driven, focused, motivated, and determined to reach your goals and setting an agenda that pushes you forward. We bring you insights from top players in business, sports, real estate, investing, health, and more. Here, we dive into what it really takes to thrive with candid conversations that cut through the noise and get to the heart of people's success. All right, we're live on the Driven Agenda podcast, and I have another good friend with me here, Jimmy Rivales. Jimmy is the owner of Rivales Taco and Craft Bar, and he also owns Cortadito Cuban Café. The Rivales restaurants are in downtown West Palm and Wellington, which he just opened, and I heard it's beautiful. And then Cortadito is actually put it right in a sweet spot right near the courthouse. Yep. So all the lawyers and judges and people go there. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Appreciate your time. I know we were trying to get this going. So I met Jimmy from his sister. She and I are in the legal business. We've been in it for probably over 2 decades now.
Yeah.
And she and I have been doing business like probably almost every week. We talk every 2 weeks in some form or fashion. And eventually she introduced me to her family members and Jimmy. And down the road, I've helped him with some legal things that he's needed. But he and I have become really good friends since then. I don't see him that much, but I mean, every now and then he'll call me, I'll call him, we'll shoot the shit. And he's one of those people where he's just super chill. And even if you don't see him for a while, it's, once we start talking, we just start laughing and talking about stuff. We have a lot of things in common. Entrepreneurship, which is really the basis of my podcast anyway. This isn't a law podcast. It's more about people who are doing really cool stuff, not the 9-to-5 type thing. First off, this will be the first drinking podcast here.
Perfect. Even better.
Jimmy told me that he's bringing in this new type of alcohol.
It's an agave based.
Okay.
So you have tequila, mezcal, sotol. Sotol, the difference is that it grows wild all over Mexico. And it just has a completely different flavor. It's very smooth. And I've sampled it a lot to my customers, and have been loving it.
They're loving it?
They're loving it. And
so it's something different than tequila and mezcal, which is all agave really popular now.
But since tequila is growing so much, and now they put mezcal on the map, sotol is still not on the map, and it's still an agave-based spirit. It's just really, really good.
Yeah.
And so people can know about it, so that tequila is eventually going to run out because it takes 15 years for the plant to grow.
I didn't know that.
So if it's only coming from, it's like wine. It takes time. It's not like wheat or barley, to make beer and vodka.
Yeah, you can do it anywhere.
So I'm trying to look for different avenues to make sure that I can bring in, because I've brought in a lot of tequilas, and then eventually they just, I can't get it anymore.
Yep.
So
you get this established customer base with it, and then you're like, they come back and you're like, it's gone.
I'm out.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I guess because we're not in an industry like you, so we're used to just the name brands that, what is it, the Patrons and stuff like that.
Which, if you're using a natural product, which I always try to do, it is obviously going to run out because they don't skip corners, and they do things the right way. So that's what kind of products I always try to promote for my clientele, because that's the clientele that I've attracted for the last 11 years. So I brought this on, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, I got to share it with you because I know you haven't tried this before.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm always up for something new. I literally have not even tried it, so I'm gonna do. What do you do? Sip this, shoot it.
Yeah, you want to sip this?
Okay, I'm gonna
salute.
Cheers. Tequila vibe. Something's a little different with it.
It's like floral. And there's no additives.
It's not harsh. It's got as I'm breathing out, it's got some kind of flavor to it that I can't describe, but I like it. It's cool. I mean,
I should have educated myself a little more, but there is a flower that they grow it in that's on my mural in the restaurant, which I didn't even know. But and I don't remember the name of the flower, but it's a very famous flower in Mexico. It's yellow. But
I appreciate you bringing that in. Never heard of it before. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of people that will end up seeing this will check it out. And is it popular at your restaurant?
Very popular, very popular. And a lot of people who've tried it at the restaurant and end up ordering cases of it for their own to have it because they like this.
Are there a limited number of I don't want to sit here and promote this brand.
No.
But are there a limited number of companies that are pushing this right now?
I don't know. I only bring things in like that, like because I like the product. I don't obviously I don't make any money off. Besides my customers coming to try it, and that's about it. But
okay, well, cool. This is our first drinking episode here. Obviously, I need to ask you. I know that you were in construction business before, and how the hell do we just say I'm going to open up a restaurant? I mean, it's a pretty basic question there.
What happened was, I basically did construction and waited tables. That's always been like my background. So that's how I was able to even come up with capital to do what I'm doing now. So I worked construction since I was 17 years old. So, and I waited tables, and I've been in the restaurant business since I was 13 years old. So I just kept going with working nonstop. So I just worked daytime and nighttime. And I just kept going, and it just correlated together because it ended up helping me out, obviously, when I opened my first restaurant and I didn't have enough money to do
I remember you were doing all the build out, and I was impressed because I am not handy at all, and you were doing some pretty cool shit, and the bar and the pennies on the bar and all that stuff. So I know you did all the build out, but like, so what happens? We're doing construction, we're learning the industry while we're working in it, and then eventually we just save up enough to be like,
right, because you know, a new business, no banks are going to give you any money.
Especially restaurants.
Exactly. So they're not going to give you any money, so you have to come up with it. You got to figure it out. So luckily, I was able to make a deal because I remember I started in the small place.
Yes.
In the small
very
place.
Small.
Very small.
I don't even think it had like, what, 2 high top tables?
If that. And I had outside. So then I moved to the space that became open, which was an old Colombian spot that was there for a year or so. And I managed to make a deal with the landlord where I told him, I was like, this is what I can afford right now because I can afford it just from my sales alone from my little spot. And do you want a revolving door or do you want somebody to be here? And we ended up signing almost a 20-year lease. And we stayed there, but I just didn't have a lot of money to do a complete remodel.
Right.
So a lot of the tables I built myself. I did a lot. I was more focused on the kitchen, so I did all the remodel. Me and my brother did it, and we didn't sleep for like 2.5 weeks, and we managed to open that restaurant in 3 weeks.
Yep. I remember you had the first little tiny place, and it was packed. And I thought I saw you were in the news or news articles.
We were on USA Today of one of the top 20 best restaurants in Florida.
Yep. So you get a lot of the courthouse and the corporate professionals coming in to that original space. It gets too crowded, and then you find a bigger spot, and then you become established there, a spot where it's a legit restaurant. And then it surprised me because I told you back in December, my wife and I, we stay at the Bend a lot, and I just happened to walk by your place after doing dinner somewhere else, and I'm like, oh my God, he completely changed how he originally did it, and this is like, this is really classy and cool. It had a good vibe. The bar's right there when you walk in. It just totally upped the level, and I had already liked what you had before.
Well, people don't know that Mexican food is very diverse. So you have Peruvian food, have different regions, and the food is completely different. It's very hard to make. So what I always wanted to do is just make not a super upscale, but upper scale Mexican style food, because I was losing so much money because I make everything from scratch, but I was charging Chipotle prices. So then I had to change that. How do you change that? You change the atmosphere.
Yep.
You make it nicer to attract more people so they can hang out, so they feel like they're getting, and then you change your plate presentations, you make better plates. So that's what I had to do, but I just didn't have the funds to do it. So it took time to build it up. And again, like I told you, banks don't give you any money. So
Yep.
me and my brother just worked so hard and to figure it out. And then finally we were able to get it done.
Even if, you know, when you upscale it and you increase the prices, they still are way more competitive than some of your competitors.
Of course.
You know, what I love about your restaurant, I've always loved, is everything, like you said, is fresh. You can tell it, you can see it, you can immediately taste it. And you started that with the tacos, and then when you added the margaritas and liquor, then it's a whole nother level too. Like you really take pride in just the margarita mixes and juices, and everything is like top notch.
Yeah, well, that's it's not even how much you're going to charge, right? So, would you rather go to a place where you're going to see it's a decent drink and you're paying $20 a drink? You might have one, maybe two, but most people are like, you know what, this drink is $12, but it's delicious, it's fresh, it's not as bad as everywhere else, but it's $14 to $12. You're going to maybe have one more.
Yep.
And that one more is a big difference in business.
Yeah, it is.
It's a huge difference in numbers. So my thing is, I don't have a huge overhead. You know, I don't have departments. It's just me and my brother. So we managed to keep it small, be very conservative with everything. And we grew the brand that way, about quality and service. And service in the sense of people from Palm Beach Island come over to our place and they said, you should make this into a club, because people feel like this is, if you know, you know. That's what they say.
Yep.
It's like, it's our spot. It's what we like. We know.
Well, I think what's cool about that is you are just off the beaten path of Clematis Street, and there's maybe tourists aren't familiar with you, but you literally are right behind the Duffy's, which is in the middle of it all. So you're in the middle of it, but not directly there. So people have to know about you or somehow see you when they're crossing that sidewalk. But you're right. It kind of turns it into its own little hole in the wall there.
Absolutely.
Where you're kind of secluded away from some of the craziness of
Absolutely.
Clematis Street. And I could see from what you recently did that you can kind of grow that vibe of local people and the Palm Beachers. That's impressive, though, that you can get the Palm Beachers.
A lot
over,
of them, like,
they're picky.
yeah, and a lot of them we've gone, and like I'm surprised in the sense, like, these people travel all over the world,
Right.
Eat at the best restaurants all over the world,
And you have a competitor 30 seconds away from you.
yeah, and another one in City Place, you have El Camino,
Right.
but those guys,
And those they got millions of dollars in budget and marketing and all that stuff.
millions.
But that's what I like about you, man. The food is just on point, and it's always packed, and you hustled from the ground up, and you don't have hedge fund funding and all that stuff. You're ground up, figuring it out,
It's so,
and you're successful.
yeah.
I love it. So we get the West Palm restaurant up and running. It's looking legit now. We got steady crowds. Why do we expand to Wellington?
Well, it's all depends how much money you want to make, right? In your body, right? You're gonna get tired. So restaurant business, it is very physically draining. So how do you scale it, but still keep it boutique, right? You want to keep it in your community as much as you can. Luckily, we live in a community that's pretty large. But what my brother and I were thinking about is, how can we justify hiring a director to be our right hand and help us? We have to scale. But how do you scale and still keep it boutique?
Right.
Right? So it took a lot of work, a lot of research. So basically, it's almost like, we have to open a third location now. This is our goal. So now we can kind of step away and just focus on those things to be able to expand, like, let's say, a commissary. So everything is made in one area where it gets distributed amongst everyone else, amongst all the other locations. So now you keep your freshness, you keep everything good, you have buying power within all the restaurants. So you can't do that with one location, because if we just had one location, me and my brother would be working 7 days a week,
Right.
for years, until we get tired. 20 years go by and we're like, oh man, that's it.
Yeah. Tired, old, and you're like, what am I doing?
Yes, you're making money, but that's
Not really what.
That's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't get to see your family, hang out. You don't get to really go on vacations. What are you going to do? So that's how you scale it. You have to be able to scale your business, but you have to also justify the cost. So I can't sit there and be like, I'm going to hire a director because I just want to hang out and hang out with my friends. So how much money do you need to be making to hire a director? How much money do you need to be making to hire a corporate chef to help you out and do the research and development to grow your brand?
Right.
So all those things, and then my brother's a forensic accountant by trade, so he was able to be like, we need to open 3 locations. And we got lucky enough because we got Wellington on a off-market deal, which was already a Mexican restaurant. They were out the door, and we were able to capitalize on it.
Yep.
And that's really how it worked out. I only take over distressed restaurants.
I noticed that, and it seems like a good move for you because the places you were at before were all kind of turning as well. And there's just certain restaurants, downtown Lake Worth, when I was there for decades, you see the same buildings just turning and turning, and you just wonder, like, are they haunted, so to speak?
And it's not that they're haunted. It's just that people get into the restaurant business because either they have a lot of money.
They think it's cool.
They think it's cool. They want to show off with their friends. But in reality, who really knows about restaurants? The people who know restaurants. You know? So I personally, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm a learner along the way. But me personally, I'd rather take over a restaurant that was there, that people knew that it was a restaurant at one point, and they're going to go back to see what's the next one that's coming.
Right.
And I can take over your assets.
And you have the shell of it too.
The infrastructure.
So you're not starting from complete scratch.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that when people do like the whole build out thing, I think it's just they have a lot of capital.
Right.
And
they have like they're like a franchise, so everything has to kind of have that same look, maybe.
Maybe. Yes, but you can still do that. You know what I mean? But my thing is, I think a lot of people that are in the restaurant business are investors, and that's not their bread and butter.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that to start, and I'm not saying this might change for me 10 years from now, but when you're starting, this is the only form of income that I have. Mm-hmm. So I cannot justify spending $3-4 million to open a restaurant, because how long is that going to take me to get that money back?
Yeah. I mean, everything has to be crunched.
Exactly.
It has to be tight, and we're balancing quality food, excellent customer service with trying to be as frugal as possible.
So for me, it's like, if I can get a restaurant and I can get it opened in under 3 months with a minimum investment, I can start seeing a return a lot faster.
Right.
And that's kind of like how I saw it.
So how do you get you have your fan base, so to speak, for West Palm, but how do you get people to notice you over in Wellington? Well,
a lot of it has to do with obviously foot traffic, and there's not really much options in Wellington of decent food. That's one of the flaws that I've had is I'm not a very good marketing person. But we're trying to get better because I'm more of a relationship person. So I like to train my staff. How many commercials have you seen of like Buchan?
None.
Okay. How many, like the Café Blue? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, if you want to do massive marketing, you're going to attract the masses. If you want to do a boutique, nice, where people appreciate that kind of food, it's more a relationship, I think.
Yeah, you're going to get long-term investment, solid referral source, so to speak. That's how I look at it as well. We provide that unique service to them, make them feel special and authentic. Then they're going to tell everyone about you, and they're going to say, oh, this is nice. I don't have to look for anywhere else. I just keep coming here. And
think about it. You have your bar that you go to, and you haven't been in that bar for 3 months.
Right.
And you sit down, and they serve you the drink that you like.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to ask for it.
Yep.
That's what I strive for, and that's what I want every single one of my restaurants to be like.
Right.
Because to me, that's going to save me on marketing.
Of course.
Because now, if I tell you go to this restaurant, you're more likely to go as opposed to you see it on your phone. Because I tell you, like, if you love Mexican, bro, you gotta try this place. Yep. You're going to probably try it within the month. Because you're going to be like, if Jimmy's saying it, it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to think it in my head and then find a reason to when I can go and do it.
And I might be wrong again, but this is just my theory that I've worked with forever.
Yeah.
And it's always been like, if I can focus on mastering relationships and making people feel so special when they come in that they're going to tell their friends, that's the crowd I'm attracting right away.
Yep.
And they're going to tell their friends, and that's what you want. Because if you hire the masses, you attract the masses. I'm sorry. Then you're gonna be like, oh man, this is not the crowd I want.
Right.
What if they get drunk and they're screaming and yelling and they're scaring away everyone else?
Yep.
So you're directly seeing the clientele that you want while they're in your restaurant, and you make sure that they're going like crazy over the service and the food and everything.
Okay.
Now they're gonna tell their friends. Now they're gonna tell everybody.
Yep.
And they're gonna friends and their friends are gonna text me, hey Jimmy, I got some friends coming in from whatever. You know, you're gonna be there. Make sure I'm there. Or you train your management obviously to be the same way.
God, I can't remember the guy's name. I just saw him speak in November. Got something Goodary or something. He has a 5-star Michelin restaurant in New York, and he literally went from number 49 or 50 to number 1 restaurant in the world only because he changed the customer service. He never changed the dishes and the shit that they do. I mean, obviously you're talking wealthy people at this restaurant, but the stuff they would do was out of this world, and then people would refer to them. So I get it too. I try to do the best I can in my business because I'm competing with the gorillas, you know? Yeah. And that's the only way we can separate ourselves from each other and get that ROI of clients coming back to you, being referred to you versus paying all this money for social media and billboards and all this shit that the lawyers do. So let me ask you, you want to get into a restaurant, why Mexican themed?
There's the 3 concepts that are lucrative, right? You have Italian, you have Mexican, you have Chinese. The reason that they're successful is because they're a fusion. If you look at Italian food, it's just different pastas with different sauces, same protein. So you don't have to buy all these different proteins. High volume, fast, you can do it. Same with Chinese. Different noodles, different vegetables, different proteins. Mexican is the same way. The only reason I got into more Mexican was because I realized that Mexican food wasn't being done right. Everything was either Tex-Mex or buses, taqueria with cheap proteins.
Right.
So what I wanted to do was to upscale fine dining style of cooking with Mexican food, which is now becoming bigger in like Mexico City and all those places.
Right.
But I wanted to do that, and I felt like that's the best way to do it.
It's still a ballsy move because even though you've been at it for a while, even when you started, Mexican was just becoming, especially here in Florida,
in the area that I was
super popular.
You saw how West Palm Beach was.
Yeah. Everyone's got a food truck and all that stuff. So it's definitely a ballsy move taking on the Mexican industry because every block there's something Mexican.
But you also got to remember, in Italian food, you're going to have a bottle of wine or a cocktail. You never have both.
Right.
In Mexican food, people either have a beer and a margarita, or they have a margarita and they'll eventually maybe have a shot. And there's no other food that does that. So that means your food cost is going to drop.
Interesting.
Because what are the odds that you're going to go to an Italian restaurant and order a shot?
Yeah, you're not doing that just because mentally you're...
In a Chinese restaurant, you're not going to order a shot.
Right.
So
they don't even sell them.
Don't sell them because
it's all like fast food Chinese.
So like if you're having a good time at a Mexican restaurant, there's always going to be that one buddy that's going to say, you guys want to do a tequila shot? And they might do it.
Right.
But that might is massive because now that tequila shot can be $12, whatever. You're adding an appetizer to every guest.
Right.
With one drink that a cook doesn't have to make.
So did you always have a liquor license?
Not in the beginning. For the first 3 years,
That's what I thought. Then you acquire one, which I know is hard to get here in Palm Beach County. Does that stuff just significantly increase your profits?
Absolutely. Because you got to understand, like, liquor doesn't go bad.
Right.
So your food cost is going to drop. And if you're moving it, even better.
Right. So I know tacos can be fairly inexpensive to make, even high end. What's more profit? Liquor or
liquor for sure always, yeah.
Yeah.
Liquor for sure always.
Is that for all types of restaurants? Like
yeah.
Usually if you got liquor,
your liquors, your desserts, and your soft drinks, bring down
That's
your
the
food
big money.
costs, because you got to remember, you're not paying anybody to make those things.
Yep.
Food, you have to pay a person to cut the onion,
Yeah, the prepping.
put away the onion,
Yeah, you got all the safety. You've got to refrigerate it.
you got to process it,
Yeah.
you have to cook it, and
So
there's waste.
less hours involved.
Less hours,
man
less labor. So it's you got to include all that. So at the end of the day, there is absolutely way more profit on it.
Right. Do you have any kind of chef or cooking background?
No, I just always cooked, but I just learned a lot. I was always very hands on, but to me, it was just I like really good food, and I enjoy cooking. I made like a Philly cheesesteak the other day for the first time, and I gave some away, and everybody was like, "Jimmy, that's the best Philly cheesesteak I've ever had." So I just like cooking things from scratch.
Right.
I like making things right, the way it's supposed to be done. Mm-hmm. That's it. And with everything that I do, even my cafe, like I was just like, no, like I'm not doing it that way. I don't want to, because they're like, oh, Jimmy, why don't you just buy like mojo from the thing in the bottle and make it and just put it on your pork? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you got to squeeze grapefruit, you got to squeeze oranges, you got to get the garlic, you got to do all that.
But it's got your own flavor to it.
But to me, it's like
distinct.
You could taste the difference.
Yeah.
You could put in front of me beans that are fresh made and one's from a can, and I guarantee you I can tell the difference. I can tell the difference with corn. I can tell the difference with food. That's just, you can taste it. So if I can taste it, my clientele that I'm trying to attract is going to taste it.
So let's talk about the cafe. It's called Cortadito Cafe, and it's near the West Palm Beach Courthouse. What made us get into doing that? It's, you've got the basic restaurant and business concepts that you had already learned from having the taco place, but it's definitely a little bit different genre of type of food or whatever. Why'd you end up doing that?
Well, you got to. The crazy story about that is, I'm not gonna lie, I actually had a dream that I had put a Cuban cafe in downtown, because I'm sure I spoke about it with my brother a couple times, but I was driving and it was just a detour, and I wasn't meant to even have that place. And I drive over, and it's for lease, and it's just empty. And I remember it was a Pita King. It was like a gyro place,
right,
for years. So I had talked to this kid, because I really didn't have the money to do it, but I was like, let me just go. And then there was a kid that used to come to the restaurant, and he did commercial real estate, and I talked to him, and I was like, Nick, can you get this space for me? This would be your shot. You can make some money. I'll help you out, buddy. And he couldn't get the space. He goes, no, there's like a bakery going there or whatever. They're doing something. And I was like, oh, all right, then, whatever. But then I spoke with someone else. And I said, my realtor that I've been dealing with for 11 years. And I go, can you get the space for me? Yeah, of course. Let me talk to her. She comes back. She goes, yeah, we got the space for you. So we negotiated. It was amenity for the building, and then we got the amenity, and the guy's so nice. They're out of Boston, and it just fit perfectly. Everything was there. So apparently the guys just got up and left and didn't say anything and just left everything there. So I did some negotiating. They had a gyro machine. I traded that for like an oven to make bread. So like I just did all this stuff, and I managed to open that place for very little money. Just some painting. I got some local artists to do it. And it just started getting busy right away. But it was only busy for like, I don't remember, but it's like 5-6 months, and then COVID happened. So we had to close for a whole year. Luckily, the landlord was like super nice and was like, we understand, blah, blah, blah. But then we opened up again after COVID, and it's doing really well. Killing it.
What I wanted to ask for both restaurants. So if I am walking to the Cuban Cafe, never been there before, what's the drink? What's the food that I'm getting there?
I personally feel like if you go into Cortadito, which I'm making some changes because downtown is changing.
How so?
A little bit more health conscious.
Okay, makes sense.
You know what I mean? And that's one thing about me. Like, I'm not married to anything. You have to be able to adapt, right? So if you're going to be a concept, you can't just be like, oh, you just have to eat it. You have to eat it. You have to be able to say, you know what, my clientele wants something. Let's make it for them. Let's adjust. And then when you find that then you continue to open in those areas where people want that, because obviously that's what works.
Right.
So I'm not married to constantly be selling all this, bread and so people want options. So I feel like if we can adapt always to business, period, people will always come and you'll make a lot more money. So right now I'm kind of going through a change where I'm going to change for the area and add more health conscious things. But I personally feel like if I'm going to go to a Cuban place, you're going to obviously try your croquetas, you're going to have your
Pastelitos.
Yeah, you're going to have your, which I feel like people still will do.
Right.
Because they were like, obviously they want to have those things. But to me, like our Cuban sandwich is probably, I researched a lot to make it perfect. And I think our Cuban sandwich is probably one of the best Cuban sandwiches you can have.
How so?
So, you go to a Cuban sandwich, right? You go to get a Cuban sandwich. This is something that I thought of. Why are the pickles round if a sandwich is long? So I just changed that and I made it into the stackers, the long ones, the long pickles, because to me it was like, now you're biting into it.
Yeah, you're always going to get a bite.
And I changed the deli meats. I changed the deli meats to higher quality meats. I changed the mustard. I changed the cheese. I use real butter. Not
so same general concept as a Cuban anywhere you can go. You're just taking each actual ingredients to just the next level. Absolutely. So that you can have that next level experience.
100%.
So is that what you'd recommend someone to have if they go there?
100%, yeah.
Okay. What about drinks?
Go any
Café con
coffee you
leche?
want. Yeah, café con leche. Me personally, I can't have milk anymore, so I just have espresso.
It's fun getting old, isn't it?
Yeah. But and when I tell my customers, I'm like, you just try the coffee. It's fresh ground. It's not like sitting anywhere. Like you get it from scratch. It's made to order. So it's again the same thing. Like just keep your structure good. Your base is amazing. Just do the things that are right and don't cut corners, because I promise you, yes, you might not make money right away. Let McDonald's do what they do because they've worked on it for decades and all those kind of places. But if you're just starting, I'm telling you, stick with your bases. Make everything right. Do the right thing. Do what you would want to do.
Right.
What you would like in your house, Yep. You're not going to want to drink coffee that's been sitting there for 4 hours.
Yep.
So why would you want to give that to a customer?
Which again plays on your theme. Everything is just got to be super fresh.
Super fresh. And I was listening to I listen to KVJ show sometimes in the morning, but Virginia comes to the restaurant sometimes and she's good. She's awesome. But what Kevin was saying was something very important. And he's not even in the restaurant business, but I was listening to him and he said, restaurants are like, you're in a theater and when the curtains open up, you got to put on that act every single time.
Yep.
And if restaurants understand that, that's where you're going to be successful, because that's what people see.
Right.
And that's what they remember.
And it's got to be conveyed to everybody, staff, anyone that
drill it in them. And
if people that work in the back.
And if somebody comes back and says, "What's your problem, Jimmy? Why are you go home?
Yeah.
You're not meant for this business."
Right.
Not meant for this business.
The restaurant, if someone walks in there, what is it that you say, we have a killer, this to eat, and then this drink should go with it?
Well, I don't think that we should generalize and give people just what we think they might like. I think you should, when you get to the bar, the bartenders are trained to ask a customer, what's your flavor profile? What do you like? And I think that's very important. So, because somebody might be like, I don't really like margaritas, or I'm more of a beer drinker, or I like sour, or I like sweet, and provide that and guide them that way.
So they're well experienced to know the menu, and then to kind of create something that.
Because if I like spicy, and I'm going to recommend you to,
then it's not going to work.
It's not going to work,
right?
What do you guys like? And that's very important. And somebody can say, I like
ask you
savory.
this, because I remember when you had the little restaurant, you said you kind of come in. When you just moved to the bigger restaurant, you said you got to get the short rib tacos or the short rib tostada.
Birria.
No, you didn't have birria then. forget what it was.
The tostadas. It had to be the tostadas.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, because I was obsessed.
But the
with
birria you did, but you didn't have that at the time.
Oh, in the first place.
The first place you told me some kind of tostada. What the hell was it? You were straight up with it too. You're like, this is the best seller. But they
It had to be al pastor tostada.
yes,
Had to be.
yeah. So I mean, do you have something? I see what you're saying with customizing towards the person, but is there something that?
But I also had a background with you, so I knew that you liked authentic Mexican food.
right?
So I knew that you would love that, you know. But then when you,
I still remember, I remember that conversation. I remember sitting down, eating it, just smiling. Yeah,
yeah. So to me, it's like if I have a background with you, I'm definitely gonna be like, okay, you're gonna love this,
right?
And I'm not even gonna let you pick. I'm gonna come bring it to you,
right?
And just with cocktails, drinks, whatever, food, and that's very important.
Yep. Somebody who wants to start a restaurant, what are you telling them that they need to do and they should avoid?
Understand that it's very expensive. It is very expensive to start a restaurant, and be ready to make some serious sacrifices with your time. If you're
Family, of course,
and,
holidays.
Yeah, understand that if you're going to run it yourself, it's a 14, 16 hour a day, 7 days a week job. But to not be guided either by like when customers are like, you know what you should do? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Stick to your brand, and if you know that it works, do it. Stick to it. Like go. You can make changes when you see the change going around you, you know?
Right.
But your brand itself, what you stand for, let's say your service, like you know what you want to do, like make everything from scratch, do all that. Stick to that. Mm-hmm. You can always adapt to making different plates of food and drinks and do all that. That's different. Because if you go to different, even corporations, they make changes wherever they're at.
Yeah.
So, but your core values of your restaurant should never change, and continue to just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Because it's the only way you're going to attract the clientele that you want for whatever it wants.
Right.
But I think that's the most lucrative way to have repeat customers. Because if I have to spend $200,000 a month in marketing, because I'm constantly going to have a revolving door, you know, that's the business that you want, but you're not really building customer base.
And it's got to be stressful because you're just constantly chasing business all the time. Yeah.
And you're not really focusing on training, you're not focusing on service. You're just getting people in the door. Your food is mediocre, maybe, or maybe it's good, but what's the point? Like, you might go to the food was really good, but the service is horrible.
Yeah.
You know?
What's a big mistake that you can think of that
I did?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Or something you'd regret?
I think that I should have worked a little bit more and used my strengths longer and not try to scale it as an investor. I kind of treated it like I was a corporation at first.
Right.
And I think that was my biggest mistake. I think that I should have grabbed my brother and been like, we're going to work together and we're going to do this together. And when we start making a ton of money, then we can treat it like a corporation.
Right.
But I think that since we came from professional backgrounds, and I think that we were trying to be owners instead of being like workers.
Well, you're around Clematis Street too, so you got a lot of that there.
Yeah.
You're in that industry, and so.
But it was that's what we should have never. We were trying to scale our business in a moment where it wasn't ready to be scalable.
Right. Speaking of that, you've mentioned a third restaurant. So is that happening? Is there a location you're looking at?
We're definitely looking in Jupiter.
Okay.
So we're trying to get to Jupiter. After Jupiter, my overall goal is to go to the Northeast, like Charlotte, Chattanooga, Spartanburg, Greenville, that whole area.
Wow.
I think that area needs some good Mexican food.
Some legit Mexican food.
And I think that the places that I've been there, when I've been there, I just think that like there's not enough yet.
Right.
And I feel like that's going to be the center for a lot of people because it's not as cold for so long. It's
Yeah.
still very beautiful, and it's not so hot for so long. And I feel like that's going to be a balance for this part of the United States.
Right.
And I feel like they're going to get an influx of people by like a lot, because Florida is just going to be a time which is like people that lived here for Florida for a long time. Like, I'm out of here. It's getting a little too crazy for me.
That's where we'll be. My wife and I were.
Yeah.
We're on like a 8, maybe 10-year plan. And
Yeah.
then I think.
And I feel like that's a lot that's going to happen. So I want to build the infrastructure.
I mean, when I go to Blue Ridge to my cabin, it literally is all Floridians.
Yeah.
I've actually met people there. Some of my wife's friends, some of my friends I run into, because everyone is up there on vacations. And now I think Georgia is the biggest state that the Floridians are moving out of. So we do live in paradise, but definitely.
I think that's going to be the next thing.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be the best.
What is one restaurant or bar that you absolutely love here, though? That's not yours. You go to a certain place when you're like, I want to get away from everything.
Well, two of them that I love closed. So I used to go to Le Rendezvous in downtown. They closed. And then I used to go to Leopard Lounge on the island.
Oh, God, that's been around. That was around forever.
And they closed. So those were my two big spots that I'm like, man, those were my spots.
Just enjoy the vibe.
Like Le Rendezvous was nice. It was like nice French guys. Brothers owned it, and the drinks were great. The food was great, and we just hung out. And it was very like, again, I like very personal vibes.
Yeah.
And Leopard Lounge was more like great live music, and nobody bothered me. And I really didn't really nobody knew me. But now a place that I like to go to is Pizza Al Fresco on the island. And I don't know, it's the food is great. But it's more like there's friends there. People are really nice. The service is out of this world.
Anything on Palm Beach has to be like that.
But it's not.
Really?
Not to that extent of like that personal touch, because I've been to a few Palm Beach places. But the guy there, what's his name? Javier, I think his name is. And I want to steal him all the time because I was like, I would love to have somebody like you working for me. So I was there one day, and I drank like 3 beers in under like 30 minutes or something. And the guy brought over a champagne like thing and put like a 6-pack in there for me.
That's awesome.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he knew, and
he like paid attention, and he was
yeah.
like, he's the major D, and he just handled it. And I'm just like, that's the kind of things that you shouldn't have to ask for. Because this guy in his mind is like, this guy pounded 3 beers in under 30 minutes. He's gonna have more.
Right.
Give him that nice touch. Like, he's funny. Like, he's fun. Like, he's not an uptight guy. Like, he knows how to read people, So he gave me that service. And ever since then, we're just like, that's my spot.
And he knows that this is my job, and I got to make everyone happy and be authentic about it.
Absolutely.
And that Jimmy's going to keep coming back.
And it's not cheap. They're charging $12 for a beer, or I think, or something like that, you know? But it was that, like, it was those, like,
that experience. You're paying for the experience.
And the people that go there are super nice people, and I made friends with a lot of them that go there. And I think, like, right now, like, Pizza Al Fresco is probably one of my top. Pizza's great, by the way, but just the vibe is really awesome too.
Nice. How can people find you and your restaurants, social media wise, websites? Where are you at?
Well, like I told you, like, I want to get better at marketing, but I think the best way is, obviously, we're on social media. There's sometimes Palm Beach posts and people writing articles, but at the end of the day, just go downtown or go to Wellington, and it speaks for itself. I think there's really no other outlet where you can say,
just show up and eat and drink.
Yeah, I don't.
The rest will.
That's it. We had people today. My brother called me, and he was like, these people just showed up, and they came and they were like, this place is amazing, So I'm very happy with the outcome. We haven't had even a full year in Wellington yet. And I am super happy with the numbers and the outcome.
Right.
With the amount of investment that we did and how it worked out, it was just, I'm overwhelmed with how well it did. And I'm not saying like I made a ton of money. What I'm saying is I didn't expect it to do that well. I was expecting to just lose and be in a bad situation, to be honest, because I did absolutely no marketing. basically ran out of money towards the end. So I was just opening as quickly as I could. And I was just hoping that the place took off and did something got sales, because I was like, I have no more money for marketing. I'm done. And I didn't want to take on investors because, guys were coming at me like, hey, you can I'll invest and do this.
Yeah, but then
but I'm done.
You're at their mercy.
But I'm done. It was done. Now I just got to figure it out.
Right.
It's not like I was like, oh, I don't have any money to open. Like it was open. I just ran out.
Yep.
But now like, let's go. Let's figure it out. Because the good thing about the restaurant business is if you start getting busy, money's coming in.
Yeah.
Now you can play with.
Right.
Move this here, move that. Negotiate with vendors and figure out like, hey, I'm sorry, like I can't pay you this much, but I'll pay you this much,
right.
and you can do that, and it's okay, and they're used to that. So that's the difference with the restaurant business is that like if it's not like if I don't sell this car today, like if people are walking in the door, and it's all about like just keep going, and if you have solid numbers and people keep coming in, you're gonna make. If people are coming in, you're gonna make money.
Right.
It's not like if you go to a car dealership, you might not buy a car. If somebody's going to a restaurant, they're going to at least buy one drink,
right,
or a burrito or something, and that's the difference. And that money's coming in every day.
Yeah. Well, I love it. That's the whole purpose of this podcast is to just show people entrepreneurial spirit. You talked about you opened this restaurant and you ran out of money.
Yeah.
You just barely made it, and there's a high risk, high reward to being an entrepreneur, to being a business owner.
Yeah.
And it's not for 90+% of people. No. My wife, I've always told her if she wanted to pursue something, I would give her that opportunity if she wanted to, but she likes to go to her job. She's been there for 18 years. She's phenomenal. She's almost head of the department. And that's her thing. She doesn't have the high risk tolerance like I do, where I built my kickboxing company and sold it. And then I have my law practice and I'm competing in an area that is unbelievable. And I like that. Am I stressed all the time? Yes.
Yeah.
But the rewards are absolutely amazing as you see.
What do you think is going to happen with your industry with AI coming in?
I'm using it every day for a lot of things,
a
ton of things. And I do think it's going to take out a lot of certain lawyers, or at least a lot of their ability to generate money. It's going to take that out. I'm always looking into that because I know my head is on the chopping block in certain ways, and all of ours are. But I'm involved in AI in many facets. Actually, some of my videos are AI generated. It's not even really me.
That's awesome.
So we're using it all the time in my practice for the marketing aspect. But we'll see what happens. But I'm at least open-minded and aware that it's coming for me. It's coming for all lawyers. It's coming for all industries. I mean, graphic designers, writers, those people I would think need to be a little bit worried, or at least implement it and figure out how to use it to its advantage. But it's good stuff. Last thing, the name of the podcast is The Driven Agenda. Just basically people who are driven and doing just crazy things, good things. You got family, kids, multiple restaurants. You got a lot going on. What gives you this drive to do this every day?
I just think I think a lot of it has to do with your upbringing, your surroundings. But I think that at the end of the day, if you don't care what anybody thinks about what you're doing, and you do whatever makes you happy, that you're just going to do it and you're going to do really well at it. And and people don't understand I do it for my kids, or people say, I do it for my wife, or I don't think anybody does it for anybody. I think at the end of the day, we do it for ourselves, because your kids make you happy. And that's a feeling that you have. Your wife makes you happy. That's a feeling that you have. So if you do whatever it is that makes you happy, I just think that you just excel at it. And it doesn't even feel like you're a businessman or an entrepreneur or whatever. You just want to be there and you want to learn, because the reward of it is your own happiness, which is whatever it is that you want, whatever that might be. But you're able to spend it. Me personally is to spend it with the people that I love the most. And if I have more time to be with them, that's my reward in itself.
Right.
And I think every person is different. Like some people do it for sex and all, and for notoriety or for whatever it might be, for money or whatever. But but at the end of the day, it's like I think that if you focus on whatever it is that you want out of it, then it doesn't no longer seem like either you're an entrepreneur or whatever, but that you're doing whatever makes you happy.
Right.
And I think that that's the most important thing.
It's all we want in life.
That's the end of it. That's how I feel. Like I got into the restaurant business. Remember, I told you I was going to be a lawyer.
Thank God you didn't. Jesus.
But then things in my life happened, and I got lucky enough, and a lot of it has to do with my brother. Alberto has been there for me, and even times like I'm more wacky, than he is. He's more censored guy. He's a very serious guy, but I would have never done this business without him, because at the end of the day, like you basically did a business with somebody you love and somebody that you look up to and somebody that you have fun with, that you grew up with, and it was fun for us to do it, regardless of all the stress, and we fight and we argue, we don't agree all the time, but at the end of the day, like you were able to build a business with your best buddy. And then we were able to build a family from it, So it became this like great thing. So regardless, if tomorrow we fail and we close everything up and we don't succeed, whatever, which I don't think that's an option, but regardless if it happens.
No regrets. Memories forever.
The knowledge that we got from each other. And not even like from business, just from getting to know each other. Like that's crazy. Like how we handled certain things, and to be like, you know what? You never gave up on me, man. And I didn't give up on you either.
Yep.
So now like I have somebody in my life forever.
Yeah.
Because in business, everybody needs to understand, you might think if somebody loves you, but when it comes down to business and money and sacrifice and how many hours you're going to put in and whatever it is, most people will leave you, because that's hard to ask from somebody.
Right.
And I told you, I've been in that situation, but like, bye, Jimmy. Like, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yep. Because
you're working 16 hours. We're not going to go to dinner. We're not going to hang out. We're not going to be friends. You're not answering your phone. I'm trying to reach you, and I might be, deep in tickets, making customers are okay, and I'm not even looking at my phone. And that's the sacrifice you have to understand, that like this is what it takes. So my brother and I went through that together, and that's a big deal, and that's what we've been able to do. And so I feel like that's one of the best things that I feel like out of business that I've taken out of it is like the experience, the whole, like how close my brother and I got, even closer than ever. And on top of that, the knowledge that we got from it.
Yep.
That's really big deal to me. And now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about all the things we've been through. And he's been pissed. We've been pissed at each other.
Yeah.
But like,
you guys are solid.
Solid.
Grew a bond that you never thought you ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's hard.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
It's hard, especially when it's money.
Yeah. And decisions, if you have opposite decisions.
And then you have to have somebody that has the same skin in the game. So if somebody's like, well, how much money? I need money. I need $25,000, but restaurant made. So we've always been in the same mindset where it's like, no, we need to reinvest in our business.
Right.
Jimmy, I'm not buying.
We're all going to make the same. We're all going to lose the same.
Jimmy, I tell him, I was like, I never said like, hey, I need to go buy a Mercedes. I need to go do this. I never put that pressure on him, and nor has it put that pressure on me. It's always been like, we sit down, we have the same mind, the same goal to be like, we're going to succeed this way.
Right.
We made this much money this year. You're not going on cruises. We're not going to Italy. We're not doing anything. What do we need to do? Because we haven't reached our goal yet. And that takes a lot of sacrifice. But between both, because he has to deal with his wife. Mm-hmm. His wife is probably like, I want to go to Italy.
Right.
You made this much money last year.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we going? And he's going to be like, well, me and Jimmy made the decision to open up Wellington now. Oh, and there goes our Italy.
It's the long game, but the long game is what wins.
Yeah. And that's what I think that is
cool.
What you need to be ready for.
Well, listen, this was great, man. We never got to kind of talk this deep about stuff like that. Learned a lot. I hope everyone else does. And again, go check out his restaurants, Rivales, if you're here in Palm Beach County, downtown Clematis, right near Clematis Street. And out in Wellington, I haven't been to that one yet. And then if you're looking for some good Cuban food, coffee, hit Cortadito downtown as well. Actually, only a couple blocks from the restaurant. So thank you again for your time, brother. Always good to see you. And thanks for introducing me to this completely new
Good, because you're going to have one more shot before we leave.